Black African Power. Welcome to the Rebirth of the African Civilization Show, the home of the Ra Squad. What's good? What's happening? A well-organized lie defeats a disorganized truth every time. Ooh-wee. Man, y'all already know what it is, man. It's God killer in the house. Boy, I'm coming to do what I got to do because I'm going to do what I got to do. Standing tall, standing strong, and holding it down. Yeah, boy, we got a powerful show tonight. You know, we had them technical difficulties. There's always something going down when you're starting to get to the root of the problem. Now, check this out. We got a powerful, powerful interview tonight. The sisterhood is going to be in the building. The sisterhood is standing up strong. We having one of the great authors come on. She is going to throw it down for you. Plain and simple, man. She wrote the great book that's coming out, The Medieval Upheaval, a catalog of bloody European evils. And I remember when the great John Henry Clark said, European history first. And I remember when the great Chancellor William said, go to Europe to get your history first because they stole it all and put it in the museum. Well, now we're trying to figure out what mindset would lead a group of people to steal artifacts in the millions and take it back to their homeland, and they still ain't gave it back yet. What mindset would lead a group of people to enslave people, and they still ain't paid us for that yet? Kidnapping has always been against the law. Learn your open enemy is what the great ancestor said. Now, we had a great book written by Marima Annie. Real good. But we ain't had one written like this. I'm letting you know right now, Ra Squad author will be in the building in a minute. Ra Squad quality, y'all know how we keep doing it, and you keep wondering, where in the hell do they continue to find sisters and brothers like this? How do they do it? Just trying to let you know, man, this is scholarly work on the subject matter. And when we say Ra Squad quality, we all know what it is. Sourced out, reference and doubt. It ain't no foolery, not at all. Excellent book. And it's on sale now. I got the website in the chat room for y'all. All right, go in there and check it out. We need a book like this. Very, very important to study those who studied you. I'm going to say it again. Very, very important to study those who have studied you to know end. They know you better than you know yourself. Now it's time for you to know them better than they know themselves. And there's only one way to do it, and there's only one book for that, and that's this book right here, Medieval Upheaval, a catalog of the bloody European evils. So if they treated themselves like that, man, you already know how they treated you. See, once you read a work like this, you start to realize where the hell you really are. You start to understand the stages of development they went through to get to this point to enslave a people and then act like they set them free. Because you were slaves on Sunday, set free on Monday, rewind, slaves on Sunday, free room and board and food, medical care, all taken care of. On Monday, you now got to pay for food, clothing, and shelter, and everything that comes with that. Sharecropping. Crazy. Like you left the plantation, you ain't had nowhere to go because where the hell was you really going to go? And you turned right back around and started working. So you work for free. Now you work and get paid and pay all your money back, so you're still working for free. Tomfoolery at an all-time high. But look, it's kind of late, man. Let me get right into this. Let me bring she on the phone. All right? Crazy, man. Bananas. So look, while you listen to hit one of your keypad, all right? I see the room is filling up. Okay? Sister She, what's good? What's happening? I'm the Raw Squad up.
Brother Oz Black, African Power, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. You know you got to speak up. You cannot come on there with that voice. That's all. It's powerful as this book is.
I'm sorry. I'm hoarse a little bit, but I will speak up. I like that introduction. David Cameron was over in Jamaica a little while ago, and he said that, the question of slavery, reparations came up, and the man said we need to put it behind us. So so they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with the fact that not only did they kidnap us and torture us, but they slimed us too, as the kids say. They slimed our history and made a mockery of us. They made us feel ashamed of ourselves. So a lot of projection going on with the Europeans, a lot of projection, a lot of things that they themselves did, and they put it on our people, on our ancestors. So that's what my book is about.
Yeah, it's a powerful book. We did a lot of corresponding back and forth when you was writing this book. So let's do it like this. So we, you know what I'm saying? And you definitely one of the I'm a Raw Squad authors, right? I just want the listening audience to know that. So a lot of publications will be coming out. So let's do it like this, all right? Okay. What do you want the listeners to know about you, sis?
Okay, about me. Let's see. First of all, I'm a writer. I'm a journalist by training. And for several years, I worked in broadcasting for a major media company. So if I mention the name of the company right now, everybody would go, oh, okay, but I'm not going to mention them. But a major company in America. But, they stifle creativity in these corporations, some of them, many of them. And so I became frustrated, and I left. And I started teaching. I got a teaching certificate and moved myself to Europe and Asia. That was before I knew better, because if I had known better, I would have gone home to Africa. But I lived for a time in Europe and Asia and taught English over there. And, being amongst or away from, I'll put it that way, from my people, man, I miss black folks. And I started doing research and started writing my book. So, yeah.
So let me ask you this. While you was in Asia, what got you through them Asian Sundays?
Let's see. Well, I had run into this brother called Ankh, and at the time he was on the Ankh and Nikki Love show, and I started listening to him, and I think he went away for a little bit, or at least I couldn't find him, but I found him on Sunday, and I started listening to him. Of course, the time is a little different, so night here is day there, so I would listen to you before I went into work, and it was like being home. So I thank you and the other members for keeping me sane for those years, because it got quite lonely over there. Quite lonely.
Yeah, see, a lot of people don't know about the Nikki Love and all days when I was by myself, slaying all by myself, right, for years. So I built that radio thing for real for years. All right, so now y'all know what it is. Y'all can go back and listen to them old shows too, right? All right, okay, so we see what got you motivated there. So now check this out. Tell us about the book, Medieval Upheaval, a catalog of bloody European evils, because that's a real powerful title there. You might want to start with the title a little bit. Mm-hmm.
That the title, it's basically, it covers what the book is about. We don't hear about the bloodiness of Europe. They kind of gloss over it. They make it seem like it's entertainment, when you guys are watching what is it called, the Game of Thrones and the Walking Dead and all those other shows. You look at it as pure entertainment. The producers, the writer's imagination. But that stuff happened. That stuff happened. So I actually had one person who read my book asked me if I had ever seen the Game of Thrones, and I have yet to see a single episode, a single second. But he was like, "Boy, that's your book," and I was like, "Really?" He was like, "Yeah, that's your book right there." So they come from a bloody history. They camouflage it really well. But the book is subtitled "Confronting the Whitewashing of European History," and so that's what it does. And I ask and answer this question: were the people who invented the social paradigm that they call the Dark Ages, were those people capable of improving the social conditions of other cultures? Basically, I'm asking if Europeans could help others when they couldn't help themselves. I ask and answer that question, and I go into their history. That I use their historians, their researchers, their folklorists. They have no shame about writing what they have done. No shame. It's all out there for us to read and explore and to digest. So.
Yeah. Mhm. I'm telling this in the audience. That's a powerful book. And the thing about it is we don't have one like this in the community. That's what makes it very special. You know what I'm saying? We don't have that shit, so we really appreciate you taking the time. As a matter of fact, how long did it take for you to write it? Still with that.
Let's see. Well, I started writing in 2007, 2008. And actually, this book is the 13th chapter of the book that I started writing in 2007, 2008. So I actually had a lot of material to work with. The chapter grew into a huge essay, which grew into this book. And I know you don't like spookism, Brother Ankh, but it's interesting to me that the number 13. This book is actually the 13th chapter of an original book. The number 13 is a bad luck number for Europeans, but it's considered a good number for Africans. So I'm just throwing that out there for the numerology.
Yeah, I know that. Like Friday 13th is really 13. Yeah, I get that.
Right. Yeah.
I
thought that
might
was
not think. I get that. All right. So, why did you write the book, though?
Why did I write it?
And why did you write it? It could have been a lot of things you could have wrote about, because you had those skills, right? Why you pick that?
I'm going to say Tiger Woods inspired me. He at the time, it's an interesting story, I think. But he came up with this. I can't remember what it was, but he came up with this title for his ethnicity. He came up with this combined word. I can't remember what it was, but he never identified as black or African. And I always feel that people, they self-identify the way they want to. But I was with my daughter at the time, and we were talking about Tiger Woods, and I was amused by the whole thing. But I ended up responding something like, it sucks being the most rejected people on the face of the earth. Nobody wants to identify as being black or African. And she looked at me, and pain just swept over her face. So I had worked with Caucasians. I knew they weren't all that. But she didn't have that experience. The pain was visible in her that she was a part of people who were dejected worldwide. So I wrote the book to lift her self-esteem and other young folks who may be feeling the same way that, white people are this and that, people who haven't worked with Caucasians who don't know that, the images that we see on TV are not real, that they're manufactured, that it's propaganda. People who don't really understand Caucasians, this is a book for them. People who don't like to self-identify as African American. This book is for them. It's to help them understand who the savages were. It wasn't us. It wasn't black folks.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting you say that, who the savages are, because that's exactly what they deemed us as savages. Remember that Doctrine of Discovery, right?
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't find a Christian monarch, then they're savages. So they deemed them savages. What else they called this? Witch doctors, savages.
Exactly.
Just, anything out of the realm of normalcy. So very, very important with that.
The funny thing about being called witch doctors, when you read my book, you'll find out that, the esteemed medical professionals of the medieval era, they were practicing with what we call voodoo dolls, and they were using charms and all kinds of stuff. So
crazy. Crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. All right. So you write about the European tribes, right? What can you tell us about them? Let's talk about those European tribes. And I'm glad you wrote that. Because it's important for us to get to know who we're dealing with up close and personal from a perspective that's one thing I'm saying, this is a well-documented perspective, right? Well-documented information that kind of fills us in on these tribes. So let's talk about that.
Okay. Well, first of all, the word tribe, it's a Latin word. It comes from tribus or tribus. People say that it means three, and it does. But it also represents the original European families who agreed to share resources. So they lived very near to each other, and they agreed to share resources, to split them by thirds. Okay, so some say that maybe two, but certainly one was of African origin. So I'm not sure what your research shows on that, and I didn't go into it too deeply, but I thought it was interesting that Europeans believe that one of the original families was African, the Etruscans. And so these Etruscans have rituals similar to ancient Egyptians. For instance, they used the scarab as a symbol of rebirth. They had burial chambers and tombs very similar to the ancient Egyptians. And they invented the toga and established some of the ritual formalities of Rome, the chair and, some other formalities, political formalities. But so those are the original families. Then you have the tribes, the ones that are very bloody. Well, not to say that those other tribes weren't, because they were. But the tribes were bloody, they were vicious, they were lazy. They did not like manual labor. And they fought all the time. And, all the time. And during their off season, they called it their time of sloth, And during this time, the young warriors roamed away from their chiefs. They roamed elsewhere so that they could participate in wars. So, and chiefs who lost fights or could not get booty, and I'm not talking about the booty that we're used to, but the chiefs who were not able to bring in the goods or the valuables, they lost these young fighters. So fighting was essential to them. It was essential. The tribes believed in a sort of might makes right philosophy. And the more people you killed, the greater you were. And one thing I like to mention is that, the media always have us fawning over the royal family in England. Oh, this, that. Their history is so bloody. And these families probably have more bloodshed than the other European families in their past. And I should think that we not think of them as refined or elegant or sophisticated people. They just dusted themselves off for show, They're vicious when it comes to gaining power and holding power, and they have very bloody histories. They didn't get those royal chairs and those royal crowns by being elected, by saying nice things to people, by giving things to people. They got those positions because they fought for them and they killed for them and they took stuff, and that's something that I think we need to understand about them, And I think I told you once during the conversation that I actually lost a friendship over the royal family because I lacked empathy for one of them when there was a tragedy. So yeah, their tribes were bloody. The strongest man ruled.
Like part of the etymology of the word God, your mighty man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that was God. But the one that killed the most.
Exactly. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, and so when you deal with it, if you go to Diop's work, talks about the Etruscans and how the Egyptians defeated them, and maybe for like maybe 50 years they kind of mixed with the Egyptians a little bit. Then they go found the first two dynasties of the Roman Empire.
Okay, you fill in the gap that I didn't follow through on that research. It wasn't a part of my book. I just thought it was
African origins of the African origins of civilizations. Sheshet Kemet. Maybe they're not gonna find a page. So let's keep it moving a little bit because I know it's late and I know you get up early because you do a little garden. I don't even want to call it a little garden. You do a little gardening. Little food.
Yeah, I have a garden that I grow food and sell it. So turning the ground, getting it ready for next year.
Okay, all right, that's real right there. Okay, so what's the strangest discovery you made during your research, She?
There were quite a few. At the top of the list, I found out that Europeans used to dig up buried bodies. And cut them. Yeah, they cut them into pieces and sold the pieces as relics.
As what? Relics?
Treasures.
Wow.
Treasures.
Wow.
Yeah, they were treasures for the church. And they believed in sainthood. They believed that people who seemed to produce miracles or, said they produced miracles, people believed they produced miracles, they became saints, and so they felt that if they had a piece of them, then that power would pass on to them, and so they went around digging up bodies and cutting them up, and the church was a big part of that. The church actually hired men to go around and locate bodies and cut them up and distribute the pieces. Well, of course, other churches and royal families had to pay for these relics, and then people would go and pray over them. So it was a big business, and it's really funny, or maybe not, but some European researchers went into, I can't remember the country, but they went into this country and they years later, and they checked on some of the bones that the church had as relics, and they found out that they were animal bones.
Oh, yeah, they're talking about, oh, yeah, they mix in matter of fact, Divine Prospect tried to pull the wool over our eyes and said they found the bones of Jesus or found the bones of, what's the guy, John the Baptist, something crazy like that, and when they picked up when they checked the cache of bones, they found horse bones mixed in with human bones. You're right. See? Crazy.
Right. So they weren't necessarily saints and they weren't necessarily human, but it was a racket. The church had a lot of rackets, a lot.
They did,
and that was they had a lot of rackets, and that was one of the rackets. Money was everything for them.
Absolutely. If you can say you got the bones of this saint or that person, this person, it would give people from around certain areas to come in. Tourist attraction, like churches.
There you
stop
go.
There, man.
There you go.
Yeah, I bet that's 100% right on that.
And then people would set up, just like today. I mean, just think about today. If there's an attraction, people are going to come, and you're going to have other vendors selling stuff. So it was this huge racket. Everybody made money. Everybody was happy. I mean, the people who bought these relics, they had Mary's tears. They sold Mary's tears, or they sold Jesus' breath. St. John's head. It was a racket. But everybody was happy.
St. John's lock of hair.
Right. I mean, just any fingers,
shroud.
Fingernails. I mean, just crazy.
Shroud
just
of Turin.
Crazy.
Jesus' shroud. The whole 9 yards. Right.
Anything. And people bought it. And if you read the books now, they'll say that each church has thousands still today. They maintain thousands of these relics in their vaults.
That is so
and they
crazy.
bring them, and they still bring them out. So my research says that as late as the early 20th century, in some places in Germany, they would bring out so-and-so's head and pass it around and have people drink.
Oh, man.
Well, they had what they call skull cups, where they would take a dead man's skull and use it the way that they use these goblets in church. And they used a skull, a human skull, and served wine from it. So
they be tripping. So what's the most disturbing thing you find in your research? Discovery you found in your research. So we see the most disgusting, right? As a matter of fact, real quickly to answer that question, now we see where they get it from, going to Africa and taking the mummies and chopping them up and eating and calling them Mamma Mia.
Yeah, they. Yeah, I have a chapter called Medieval Med Insane, MED -INSANE, because their medicine, they talked about Africans using natural cures. We use plants and we use, trees, we use stuff like that. And they went into Africa and they shamed us. And they were using human bodies in their medicine, so it's in blood and urine and semen and pretty disgusting stuff they were doing. So, yeah, but can I answer your question? Can I answer your question or?
Yeah, you said I think the question was, what's the most disturbing? Was that the most disturbing? That the church had the bones?
Once again, there were a lot of disturbing things they did, but the thing that disturbed me the most was reading that they battled so fiercely and so viciously and unendingly that actual battlefields were soaked with blood, so that horses were sloshing around through human blood, or men were walking through, sloshing through human blood, and that the rivers and the streams were inundated with blood. So I just think about there's blood everywhere, and now they're growing their crops over there. It's just disturbing. I don't know. It's disturbing to me. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, okay. You're listening to the Rebirth of the African Civilization show. This particular segment is brought to you by Nega's Footwear. Support yourself or die. We got the author of a great monumental work, Medieval Upheaval, a catalog of European evils. Sister She. It's a powerful book, and, I suggest y'all get to it. Real fast, let me get Brother Ish on the line. Brother Ish, I'm a Raw Squad Up. What's good, brother?
I'm Raw Squad Up. Peace to you, Brother Ong, and also peace to the Queen also. Very good information.
Raw Squad Up. Black African Power, Brother Ish.
Black African Power, my Queen.
Okay. All right. Let me get to the next question. Let me see. Let me think about this. Okay, let's deal with in the book you talk a great deal about torture. All right. Let's talk about that. What can you tell us about that? Them Europeans love torturing people. Big thing.
Yeah, with the center of their life, really. I mean, everything they did revolved around torturing somebody. It's part of their philosophy. One historian said that life was cheap. It was cheap. They hanged people. They did all sorts of terrible things to gain political power or gain access to a person's wealth. There were the gladiator games, that we hear about. That was a form of torture. Of course, the Inquisition are known for their torturing techniques. And what I discovered was, people talk about the Spanish Inquisition. I mean, that's the one that I normally hear about. Well, my research says that all the countries had their own inquisitions, And one historian says they actually started, some people say that the Inquisition started, the 12th or 13th century in that area. I found one historian who takes it all the way back to 300 ACE. So it's a part of their DNA, their cultural DNA. What also surprised me was learning that they use torture techniques on Africans, and I never knew that before I started researching. Europeans exported torture to Africa, and many of us may know about the hands of Africans that King Leopold, the Belgian king, cut off for Africans who didn't meet his high quota, but all the European countries rather used torture against Africans. So, torture is endemic to Europe. And if we look at America today, because a big part of my book is helping people to see that even though Europeans say that we are in this modern age, that they have brought forward a lot of their traditions, the traditions that worked for them in the past. They brought them forward. And I warn readers that to look out for some of this stuff, that's being introduced into our culture, such as torture. Torture has been reintroduced, and nobody even says anything anymore about it. We had the big blow-up when we first found out about it a few years ago, about they called it extraordinary rendition, where they would fly prisoners into, these so-called black sites and use these crazy torture techniques on them. But, we don't hear about it anymore, and it hasn't stopped. It's still going on. So, they over time, they reintroduce their philosophy, and another part of my book is to let people know that, feudalism, which I deal with also in the book, I talk about feudalism. I let people know that a lot of people think that feudalism hasn't ended. It's just changed the way it's presented to us, so. And feudalism was a very hard time, and people were servants or you were rich. Those were your options. And if you had children, your children, depending on what your social status was as a servant, because they had different levels of servitude, your children also were tied to the land. So, and if you ran away, they could, send scouts out after you and bring you back, and they could, they could kill you if they wanted to. I mean, just really brutal. you know. Yeah.
Interesting. Look at that. 1 second. In the book you talk about.
Can I just elaborate on something also?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think our sister is absolutely correct about not overlooking the fact of things that they did back then and how it could affect us today. I know that in 2009 and 2010, the family of Geronimo was suing Yale University to get the skull back of Geronimo. You know, the secret society, Skull and Bones. They collect the skulls and the parts, the body parts of key warriors for their own rituals within these secret societies. And when Geronimo's family found out that they actually had his body, his skull there, they sued to get that back. So these are the things that happen in today's times in a long line of things that they used to do back then in these European rituals concerning indigenous people and drawing that power and energy and doing ritualistic things.
Yes. And thank you for using the term ritual, because that's exactly what it is. Those rituals that they believe worked for them in the past will work for them in the future. Yes, absolutely.
Correct.
And I also call them blood rituals, because a lot of the early tribes, they drank one another's blood, you know, in order to seal oaths. So blood is central to their rituals. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I tell you, it's crazy when you're sitting down on communion and you're drinking the goddamn blood. It's crazy. In church right now today.
You know?
The wine.
Right.
It's symbolic.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. So it's a European custom. That's interesting. Wow. Okay.
You know, the Eucharist actually means Thanksgiving in Greek. You know, which is, you know, I think, you know, you and I had a discussion about this, you know, because I had given up Christianity, but I did not renounce my vow until I started researching this book. And when I did the research on the blood covenant and all, I was like, I'm done with Christianity. I'm sorry. No. There's something going on here that doesn't feel right to me. So, it's really serious. Like Eucharist meaning Thanksgiving, and you're partaking of somebody's body, and transubstantiation. You know, that has been declared as the body of a person. You know, this person being, you know, their Christ. And so, I will skip that one. I'll skip that.
Wow. All right. Interesting. So I know in the book it covers medieval life. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. You know, as I said, there were two classes, rich and servitude. You know, the servants and the rich. But even some rich folks were, I'm going to put this in quotes, owned by other rich people. You know, so depending on your holdings, because they didn't have a lot of cash, but they had land. Land was king. And if somebody had a lot of land, had more land than yourself, and you wanted some protection, then you became a servant to that, you know, huge land holder. It was like a giant game of Monopoly. Hey, you know. But the rich people, they lived in these castles, and, you know, of course, they were, you know, up until I think it was 15th century. I might be off a little bit. But they had very little furniture. The castles were cold, and they were damp, and there were no floor coverings and no wall coverings, no windows. And I explored their life like in that way, because, you know, you're always hearing about the Africans that live in these little grass huts and blah, blah, you know. Well, you know, life was not fancy in Europe. They were dirt poor, you know, which is why, when they discovered all the riches in Africa, why they did what they did. They needed resources, and that's how they got their wealth. But they were filthy. You know, they're always saying those dirty Africans. Well, the Europeans were some filthy Europeans. And historians write that they never swept their floors. They just, tossed debris and bones and food stuff on the floor, piled it up, and, it was just filthy. And it just remained in piles on the floor, and they would, set their table up and eat there amongst all this filth, But they had, the lords and the princes, they had more than one residence. And so when the castle became unbearably ranked, they just moved on to the next castle. Rather than cleaning it, they moved.
We'll just build another one, Johnny.
And they partied all the time. They had great feasts, But I found a menu. On their menu, they say we eat gorilla meat, we eat zebra, whatever. Well, they ate roasted peacocks and swans, and for dessert, they had stuff like, pigeon pie and eel pie. Pigeon pie and eel pie. Yummy. It sounds really yummy. So
they developed that term, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Because the women and children can last to take baths in the same damn water. So by the time you got you the baby, it'd be so damn black you can't even see the baby.
Listen,
they get that from.
What are you talking about taking a bath? Who took a bath? What are you talking about?
When they did, the end of 5-year period. And you know what? People think you make that up. Go ahead, sis.
Well, there was a time when they didn't take baths. The church did not approve of bathing.
Right.
It was they forbade them from bathing because it was worldly, it was vanity, and I quote one historian who says filthiness was akin to holiness.
Yes.
Yes, they did not bathe, and one researcher says that the only reason they changed their ways because they had all these diseases and plagues, right? That just was wiping them out left and right. One researcher says that the microscope helped with that because it helped them see that there were little itty-bitty things that they have been causing them problems. But even after they discovered that, they started putting out edicts in the 1700s, you need to do this, you need to do that, take care of yourself. They put out these there are so many books that have been written about describing proper bathing techniques. How you should, whether the water should be warm or cold. To use a towel, to do this and do that. I mean, up until the early 19th century, you have them being instructed on how to bathe because they didn't do it. They ain't what.
Wow.
Yeah, but once again, the poor had levels of servitude. They were owned by the lord of the land. I think I said that, and I don't think I said that. Sometimes the lords could make people marry so that they could have children who could work the land. So and there were famines, of course, and they did not understand farming, so there were famines as a result of that, the poor tools that they had for tilling the land. Sometimes they had to they stayed alive by eating acorns. Sometimes they died, and sometimes they ate, and sometimes they stayed alive by eating each other. Yay! Yeah, so they ate each other. But
that's interesting because they brought that filthy habit over here. Remember that? They was on their way out.
Yeah.
They was eating each other. You know that. That's
Yeah.
documented. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy. And it's crazy how they just turn the tables and act like we was the savages. Because if you come to Maryland back then, right, when they first came over here in the 1400s, you got the Chesapeake Bay. You got fish diving out the bay, crabs, turkeys running wild. You can't walk 5 steps without running into a turkey. You feel me? Corn, maize. point, how in the hell do you starve in conditions like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, make a left and you're going to run into a fruit tree, a peach tree, a pear, a berry. You know what I mean? Like, really? Fish.
Right.
They just, so we see why they ate themselves, because that was part of their cultural identity.
It was part of them. You know, they definitely did it in Virginia. You know, they were digging up Indian bodies and eating them. You know, instead of burying them, eating them. You know, they eat. They're cannibals. And I found one historian, an esteemed historian, who says they used to hang human meat up in the market. So. Yes.
That's in the book? That's in the book?
That's in the book. Yeah.
Oh, man, not the meat market.
Yeah, they used to hang them up.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and then during the Crusades, you know, you never hear this about the Crusades, because the Crusades, you know, they were marching for Christ, they were doing something holy, but they were also eating each other because people didn't plan well for the Crusades. Poor people, there were a lot of poor people who went on these crusades. Well, they sold everything they had. They had no idea how long it would take them to get to the Holy Land, and they ran out of food. And so what do? You start eating grass, you eat your horses, if there are dogs around, you eat that. After that, it's like, hey, who's left?
Oh, man.
So there was a lot of cannibalism during the crusade, especially the first crusade. Yeah.
They also have babies in the Vatican walls too.
Oh, that ain't so.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
What are they doing there?
There's dead babies. There's dead babies that are embedded in the Vatican walls, and that's when they came here to America. Y'all were talking about their bathing habits. That's where you got that term. You could smell them a mile away. It was the Native Americans, the Pequots of like the Connecticut and New England area. They, as the sister accurately stated, tried to teach them bathing habits because they were so used and spooked out, thinking that they would get the plague. They would never bathe, and they were taking baths in the same. They were drinking the same water that they would take their baths in. So they're drinking filthy water. And the Native Americans had to teach them, go around here and you drink over here and you bathe over here.
Right,
you don't drink where you bathe. So they had no bathing habit, and as Ankh accurately stated, they started calling the indigenous people the savages, but it was the indigenous people that were taking baths every day.
Yep. Same with Africa. Africa, we have these leaves and there are certain barks over there that will foam, make suds, and that's what we use to clean ourselves. We had these little, I can't remember what they're called now, but I think it's in my book, one of them, and we used to take parts of some tree and pick our teeth, like flossing, with it. So we were on to hygiene, we were all about hygiene, but they called us dirty. And you're talking about the babies in the walls of the Vatican. Well, you know about the bone churches in Europe, right?
Right.
Where there are, some say they are bone churches. These are human bone churches. Some say that they are bone churches because they killed so many people, because they killed hundreds of millions of people during this time.
Wait. What do you mean bone churches? What do you mean? Churches made out of bone? Somebody said, one historian said that they have these bone churches because they ran out of space for burying people. Another person says, no, that's not true. They have these bone churches because, hey, Europeans like bones. I mean, they're relics, so why not sanctify the whole church, the whole building. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that ain't so.
Yeah.
So
there's tourist attractions.
Wow. All right. How about the warfare? How about the medieval warfare?
Yeah, well, they killed hundreds of millions of people. There are places on the Internet which keep track of the numbers of people who were killed, or give rough estimates, but they just each other mercilessly. Hello. Sometimes they fought for a day. I doubt it, but their wars lasted for years sometimes, and so you had a lord or a prince who would stake out another's land and lay siege on them, and they tossed everything they had at them. The castles the interior were built like mazes, and the families were hidden somewhere inside. But they would lay siege to a castle, and they would bombard them. And this is what I found out. I found out that they tossed dead animals over the wall, diseased animals, and they tossed human bodies over the wall. So some people think that biological warfare is a new phenomenon. No. The Europeans were way ahead of the game. So they would take these animals hoping to infect the residents inside. They had many towns, right? Everybody lived behind these castle walls. So they tossed diseased animals over the walls in hopes of infecting people inside and forcing them out. So biological warfare was going on back then.
That's very good research, sister. I had no idea about that. Thank you so much for enlightening.
Man, well, you're right. Okay, like the disease blankets that they gave to the Europeans. I mean, to the indigenous Native American population.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, they found things that worked and carried those traditions forward, and that's an example of it. Same thing. They did that in Africa too. We had those infections. Was it the smallpox in Africa too? In some places in Africa that wiped out some populations. I know that the Sankoy were affected by it to a degree. Same stuff. They plied Indians with alcohol. They plied Africans with alcohol.
Yeah. You know what? People never talk about that. But that was part of how they played this with the lick. They gave niggas rum. Remember, that was a key product, rum.
It was cheap, but it had a high alcohol content. We were making wine out of palm and other stuff. I wish I had a list, because I have a list of the wines that we made using the plants there. But it was like, the Europeans, I've got these books that the Europeans are writing. Yeah, their little wine is like 2%, maybe 3% alcohol, but our stuff, man, we can get them good and drunk. And so, they're bragging about this, and they talk about one chief who refused to raid on other villages until he was good and drunk, and that he agreed to do anything.
You know what? That rum came from us working in the sugarcane.
The molasses. The molasses.
Now that they made the rum. Absolutely.
Right. That's right.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's the triangle. That is the triangle right there. You talk about you kidnap the Africans, you take them to the island, they produce the sugar, the sugar goes to the East Coast, they derive the molasses from it, turn it into rum, they send it to Africa, get everybody drunk, they pick up the Africans and take them to the island. That's the triangle right there. That's the trade triangle right there. Yep.
For the record, they carry the same thing out with their billboard commercials, using rappers for liquor, all in your community, okay? They're doing the same thing to medicate you with that, all right? So I just want to let y'all know, the Newport cigarettes, menthol, the ads with the alcohol, you go in other communities, they don't have these big billboards with liquor and these posters and stuff like that. They only have them in your community. What's that noise right there? Is that you? Was that you, Ish? Look.
No, it wasn't me. No.
Oh, that was you, sis. Come on,
it was me?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
I'm twirling my pen. I don't know. I'm twirling my pen.
What was that? Wow. So we got a blog talk show person who works for Blog Talk, can you keep that noise down back there, please? Calling number is 347-857-2055. You're listening to the Rebirth of the African Civilization show. All right? Home of the Amaral Squad. Got Brother Ish and Sister She on the line. She wrote the great monumental work, scholarly work, Medieval Upheaval, a catalog of bloody European evils. She's the author. Amaral Squad author, to make that clear and understandable.
Yes.
As a scholarly work, I suggest you all get the book. Okay? And I'm telling you, we need this work. It's important. The great John Henry Clark clearly said, learn your enemy. Study European history. Well, here's a great study of European history. Okay? Man, this segment is brought to you by Niggas Footwear. Support yourself or die. All right? Now, also, I want you to support the animated lessons. Okay? Mail track. So, let's support ourselves. Let me get back to you, sis. You talk about the Africans in the book, right? Can you say a little bit about the information?
Yeah, I wanted to balance the book, because I want to make us aware of the real Europeans, not the Europeans who are presented in glossy magazines or, on the fashion runway. I want to present the real Europeans, but I also thought it was important to teach us, some of us who may not know about classical African traditions, just give them a primer, because I'm still learning myself too. But, so I include some African information, and I want to say to people that I used European historians because we have been brainwashed by Europeans, but there are others out there who had a lot of positive things to say about Africans and really didn't like what their own people were doing. And so they wrote books, and I told some of these books, it's really interesting because some of these books are what we would call limited edition, I guess, for special audiences. So there are books, where the books in the beginning on the cover it says only for so-and-so's eyes, or book 1 out of 50. So there was information that they were passing amongst each other about Africa that they didn't want to go public. So I thought that was really interesting. And so I put some of that information in the book too. So about Africa, I just, like to let people know that we had structured, civilized societies before the Europeans interfered with us. And, you guys talk about this all the time, so I don't need to elaborate on that. But I want to add that, we like to dress good now. Well, we like to dress good back then, too. So you have authors saying, well, they've got on silk. Oh, wow. And so you have to think at the time, we're wearing silk that the Europeans are wearing wool. This itchy wool fabric, hot, heavy wool. And we wore bling on our ankles and on our, because the gold and the silver was everywhere. I've got researchers saying, wow, there's just silver just laying on the ground. They were walking around picking up silver, going handfuls of silver, going, wow, this is just here. We cultivated plants, and there was one particular plant that we used the leaves of it. We made those leaves into threads, and we wove those threads into fine fabrics that were worn by the king and the queen. So, we were some very original, inventive people. They stopped all that. We were loyal to one another. You should hear them talk about the loyalty that Africans have for one another. We warred with each other as a last resort. If we had to war with each other, some of us, and I can't speak for all the tribes, but just for the the tribes that this particular historian is speaking of. He says that if we were forced to war, like if somebody killed somebody, that would force a war. We would raid a village, the person's village, but we would not loot that village. It was seen as a sin to take somebody else's stuff. So when they call us thieves, Europeans are talking about themselves. They're not talking about Africans, okay? We're very loyal to each other. Nature gave us everything we needed. Everybody worked the land. We took only what we needed from the land when we needed it, so we weren't greedy. We were literate people, and we believed in fair trade. So we had these systems set up, and I think this story involves the Moors, but we would set up, we would have this trade relationship with the Moors, and we would set out goods and leave it there, knowing the Moors are coming, right? There's this exchange, this agreed upon exchange. Set out your goods, leave. The Moors would come, lay down what they thought was a fair price, take the goods, right? And then we'd come back. If it was okay, then everybody took what they thought was fair and went away. This wheeling and dealing and manipulating and scheming, that's a European invention. And I had several historians saying, yeah, this is the way, they were trading this way in Africa in the 1700s. I saw it with my own eyes. They just set out the goods. You leave what you think is a fair price. They come back and you take the goods. They come back and take the money. If it's not a fair price, they leave the money there, and then you have to come back and put some more money down. So, everybody knew the system, and it worked until the Europeans came, right? Okay, so I would like for us to understand that about each other. The schemers, the manipulators, that's not a part of our culture. But, we, for whatever reason, the liquor, the guns, the blah, 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 we allowed the Europeans to come between us. We believe many of their lies, Then you have the missionaries who went to Africa to spread the Christian word, but mostly they were there to get stinking rich. And I have a historian saying that there were more churches than there were priests. So it was a scam. It was a scam. And what's the guy's name? Adam Hochschild, who wrote King Leopold's Ghost. He writes about the priests who became slave dealers and sold some of their own congregations into slavery, some of their own students into slavery. So, it was a scam. The priests were scamming in Europe. They just took their show on the road to Africa and, the rest of the world. So, and as we talked about, they plied us with alcohol and they also had their criminal class. They had, Europe had all these plagues that wiped out their population. They were low on resources, low on people as a resource. And when they went into these countries, they really couldn't get a whole lot of people who were willing to just leave home and go into Africa unless they really sweetened the pot, which they did a lot of times, because they sold African lands and they gave people 500 acres of land each, really ridiculous stuff for free or for a small price. But they also sent their criminal class to Africa, and they just went wild. They went bug wild, so. Yeah,
criminal class. All of them sound like criminals. I had a class of criminals.
Right.
For the criminals,
right.
The criminals.
The ones who were, you're right, right. You can't make a distinction. The ones who were not politically connected and unlucky enough to be in jail, those. But you're right. The whole society, basically is a criminal class, Crazy. Yeah, crazy. They did some stuff in Africa. I'll tell you. We don't hear about it. You hear about the poor Indians, and of course they did stuff to the Indians, but they committed genocide in Africa. They committed genocide in Africa, and they want to blame King Leopold. There was a lot of bad press about King Leopold. He did You know, the Brits were bad, the Portuguese were bad. You know, the Portuguese, I've got a quote from a historian who talks about, I think it is in Kenya, you know, the word Christian became a dirty word because they wanted to know, the Portuguese, where's the gold? Where's the gold? And if the African couldn't say where the gold was, off with your hand, you know, or you had to mix something up. You know, it was just crazy.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about Rome during the 1400s. All right. Just as the Europeans was beginning to invade Africa, like, why is that important? What you talk about that in the book? Why is that important?
Because Europe was a savage place. You know, Europe was Europeans were calling us savages. They had their own internal issues. They lived in utter chaos. There was white-on-white crime. And it was common as rain. It was more common than rain, I should say. Murder and violence, more common than rain. They were crazy violent, but they dismissed their own behavior. I have historians who are describing Rome, and I think I put one description up on my website, and they're talking about soldiers who rape them. You know, women are lying in bed next to their husbands, and the soldiers break into the house and, you know, snatch the woman up, rape her, take her away from her husband, and they go seek shelter with the cardinals and the Pope. You know, you know, so they were doing some dastardly stuff. And so I asked my readers, you know, I offer these quotes about Rome and about Portugal, because in Portugal you had Jews leaving Spain, going to the safe harbor of Portugal. Well, guess what? They decided to institute the Inquisition there in Portugal. And they, you know, they're murdering people, left just mobs of people, just going crazy, murdering people, throwing people out the window, doing all this stuff. And so I present these quotes in my book, and I ask readers to just imagine yourself as an African back then. You know, you're doing your thing in your homeland. You know, it's warm, it's pleasant, you know, you got food everywhere, and then you're thrust into this medieval upheaval. Just think about that. You've got people calling you a savage, you know, separating you by color. You know, when you get off the boat, they go, okay, over here you're dark, over there you're light, over, you know. So the colorism is starting, you know, and families are, you know, being separated, and you know, the mothers are attached to their children and being beaten, and all this is happening to you. And so I just ask readers to step into that, you know, because I think a lot of times, you know, because we have been told that our ancestors are savages, we don't relate to them. We find it difficult to empathize with them. And so one thing I try to do in my book is to get us to feel them, you know, to feel that pain, the pain that we haven't been able to feel. Step into their shoes. What was it like, you know, for that? So I think it's important because they called us savages, and we weren't the savages. It was them. It was the Europeans are the savages. They take it out. Seriously. I mean, it's just, you know, I read this stuff and I go, my God, how did they get away with this? How are they getting, even today, you look around today, and if you read the stats, you know, like I have a really good friend who's a lawyer. She's a defense lawyer. And she told me years ago, she says, you know how they manipulate these stats? You know, the prosecutors, they decide who to prosecute and who not to prosecute. You know, they decide, the police decide, first of all, who to arrest and who not to arrest. You know, he's a good old boy. I know, you know, I've golfed with his dad, whatever. They never see the inside of a jail. Others, the prosecutors decide, well, we're not going to prosecute them. So you still have this same narrative from the Europeans saying, well, oh, my God, those black people, they're so violent. When it's them, they're just able to manipulate their own system. I mean, they made their system, of course. They're able to manipulate it, too. And we never think about that. You know, we don't put that into the equation, how the stats are manipulated, you know, and how they're manipulated.
Fudging the numbers.
Yeah, But it's the same stuff. The same stuff. They're able to just propaganda is a huge tool. It's a tool that they have used that at least they rated the value. And I know there's some question about that.
Tool of
but
war.
The saga says, that we're these godly people, and those dark people over there, they're the savages, and God has given us this land. I mean, the same propaganda. They just pull it. It worked then. It'll work. It worked back then. It'll work now. But if we don't understand their history, we don't know that they're playing the same tricks on us over and freaking over again.
Well,
and that's why we have to recognize. I'm sorry. Go ahead, but
no, go ahead, Ish.
I was going to say that's why we need to recognize that the same tool that's been used during this entire time was that Bible. That Bible has been dropped on every indigenous population as the proper white supremacist PR tool that's being used back then and is still being used today.
Yep, you're right.
The PR tool. All right,
it is
propaganda?
Do you know propaganda comes from the Roman Catholic Church, that word? They invented the word.
No,
look it up.
Look
up propaganda. Wow. Look up the etymology to propaganda. You're right on it, Ish. You're right on it. They're just that blatant with it.
Right.
That's crazy. All right, look, let's get some callers in here, man. The calling number is 347-857-2055. Let's get some callers in. Hit one on your keypad. You're listening to the Rebirth of the African Civilization show. We got, a great author on the phone. I'm a Raw Squad author. Yep, we do got people to write books in case you didn't know it. She wrote an excellent work, Medieval, Upheaval, a catalog of bloody European evils. Sister She. Okay, so look, let's get that first call in here. Hit on the keypad. 214, your line is open. I'm a Raw Squad up. 214, your line is open. 214. All right. I'm going to move on to the next one. Okay.
21 snore. That person sleep.
No. No, I haven't.
Yeah. Pick up your fucking phone, you blessed bastard.
Hold on. Let me see. That you? Let's see.
The truth hurts, I think. I think the truth is hurting.
You got beat up by police officers? I don't want to hear about it today.
Hey, 352 line is open. 352 line is open.
Yeah, I'm right here. I'm right here.
All right, hold on. Before you cuss me out, what's your name? What's your name? Before you cuss me out, what's your name?
My name is Malcolm X. That's what they call it.
All right. Okay, Malcolm X. You're drunk.
All right. Yeah, this is a cracker-free zone, so bye-bye.
Yeah, cracker-free zone, man. Cracker-free zone, man.
Cracker-free zone. Put some cream on that cracker, mother.
Cracker-free zone, man.
Black ice that cracker.
Black ice that ass. Crack.
You know, Brother Ankh. Brother Ankh. I'm happy that somebody called in because, Europeans don't know they're Anglo-Americans, white, Caucasians. Europeans don't understand their own history. They have been manipulated and lied to like everybody else. The only problem is they're living in this bubble. And whenever something disrupts their bubble, they get upset. Rather than doing research themselves to find out, is what he's saying true, what she's saying true? Let me see if that's true. They get angry. They can't handle the truth.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I got a video that deals with a lot of the European slavery history. And a lot of those Europeans, they are astounded at the history, and they write me back later saying that they've done the research and that it's true. Or they have their own family history, and it's this dirty little secret they never discuss.
Yep. I have a short chapter on slavery in my book, and some of the quotes I use, you would think they were talking about Africans being enslaved, and they're talking about Europeans. I mean, it's
right.
It's crazy.
Okay. All right, so we got the crazy crackers all right. Wow.
Another one?
No. I'm screening them now. Okay,
They want that truth to get out.
That truth got to him, put it on his head. And it's funny, and I like just the way you just your references, source material, you're sourcing them. See, that's the great thing about this book.
I use Nobel Prize winners. I use esteemed professors. All the I use their information. I'm not making this up. If they get mad, they should get mad at their own historians who did not feel shame about their history. And they shouldn't feel shame either. They should own up to it. And if they have apologies to make to people around the world, they should man up and do that. Man up and do it. They went around the world. They upset civilizations, homes. They shed innocent blood. And I know they're going to say, well, that wasn't me. Well, your people did it for your benefit, and you're benefiting from it. You don't get to accept the benefits and not the liabilities. It doesn't work that way. You have to take it off, swallow it, and say you're sorry, and do something about it to change.
That's a very, very valid point, and we have to look past the propaganda. They do a lot of freaky things online in all these different areas and some of these suburban homes that we can't even wrap our mind around. I can't even wrap my mind around the depth of the filth of things that they do today. You know, so there's something genetically wired in them that they're comfortable doing that kind of stuff. We're picking up some of those habits because we've been around them for the last 450 years, but we still can't keep up with the stuff that they do today, the freaky stuff that they do.
I agree.
Oh my God!
You know, this whole thing about hanging people. You know, they hanged African American men, women, and children, and after that, they cut off their penises, they cut off their fingers, they took lots of their hair. That stuff comes from Europe. That's what they did in Europe. That's a ritual. That's one of their rituals that they carried across the ocean with them. And we're not supposed to talk about that. Y'all did it.
Oh, no. Say it ain't so.
They used to gather by the tens, the hundreds in their public squares. You know why they have public squares? Because that's where they tortured people in front of everybody. Kids gathered to watch this blood. They had executioners who would cut off the head. They would sell the warm blood to the spectators. They would drink it as a medicine. Warm blood, the best blood, the warmest blood. The best body, the blonde hair, were seen as healthy for their medicine, their human body medicine. The freshly killed body was considered healthy for their human body medicine.
Oh man!
They were doing that up until they were doing that into the 20th century. It's probably still going on someplace and you don't know about it.
Wow! All right, let me get this next call. That's crazy. Let me see. Did I say 323 already?
No,
you didn't.
All right, let me see. All right, let's see what it is. 323. I'm Raw Squad up. 323. All right, must have been okay.
No, my bad. Hello. Yeah,
what's good?
Yeah. Peace, squad. My bad. Peace, brother. It's peace. I wanted to call in and give her some props. Yo, sister is on point. You know I love her. Y'all know I love her. Stop it. I'm glad she's on your squad. I mean, listen, because in my opinion, this is how you attack. If you want to kill a lion, you have to know your prey. So if you want to know your enemy, you have to really study your enemy. You know what I'm saying? And this is how you update your information. Like I said, like what she's explaining is she's explaining warfare, like the brother was going to. You know what I mean? But like it's warfare. Like these guys play psychological games and with the poison blankets and throwing the siege warfare tactics. Like they're not even trying to go to war with you. They just gonna surround your shit. You know what I'm saying? And then throw dead animals and poison into your joint. Like, you know what I mean? Right. So I just definitely think she's on point. I wonder, have you ever heard of Amelia Bacino?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of like late century. It's like about a black woman that was in Europe. She's the first published writer in England.
Okay.
And I was just wondering if you ever heard of, because they also say that she's William Shakespeare. You know what I'm saying? Because like this is something I just wanted to see if you found that research. But yeah, I mean, she's on point. And again, like, you know, the Europeans have no history. I mean, their history is all lies and deceit. So she's breaking it down right now, the truth. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. You know how we do, man. You need scholars, you need writers, man, look, we doing it. Let me get this next caller. 610, your line is open. I'm Ross Squad Up. Talk to me.
Black African Power.
Black African Power, brother.
Peace, everybody.
Peace to you, family.
Yeah, this brother Gabanubian. I was wanting to know what can I find her books.
Oh, okay. Look in the chat room. All right. Got the website. Medieval, MEDIEVALUPHEAVAL .wordpress.com.
Okay.
Get that? Medieval Upheaval. And we'll also be carrying the book on the Amaral Squad. So, any other places they can get the book from?
Yes, if they go to Medieval Upheaval, there will be a link that will take you to a place where you can purchase the book. As Ankh said, it's going up on his website. It would have been up today, but I've been inundated with other stuff. And also at one point, people will be able to order the book directly from me. I'm actually, Ankh, I didn't tell you this, but I'm actually autographing the books and signing them. So you can keep it as a collector's item. So the first 1,000 books that come from me will be autographed and signed. So I'm hoping for a bestseller or something close to it.
We'll get you there.
Yeah, we'll get you there, sis. Don't worry about that. Got that quality in that book right there.
That's a lot of books.
That's a lot of books. Yeah, well.
That's a lot of books.
Be good. We ready for the next one. You also have a publishing company?
Yeah, I've decided, if anybody can do it, I can do it. I've got a journalism background, and I've decided to establish my own publishing company. For some reason, I feel a kinship to the Khoisan people, and so I've named the company Khoi Publishing in honor of my people in South Africa, and I'll be putting out more books. I understand Ankh has one coming out, so I look forward to publishing that one. In the near
that's
future.
right.
So,
My first book.
Anybody else who wants to? Anybody else who wants to publish a book, I'll do the editing for it and the formatting and get it ready for sale, and you don't have to do anything but put your thoughts down, and I'll take care of the rest. And you can get my contact information from Architect.
All right, well, yeah, there we go. Yeah, hit one of your keypads. All right. Man, it's a very, very important show right here. We got 26 minutes left. Brother Ish, you got any questions for the sister?
No, brother. You're flowing real well right now. I'm just trying to elaborate on some of the information. I just want to stress that the information is so very important, that we understand the fullness, the both sides of exactly what we're dealing with, like Priest King has said also. It's very, very important that we get this knowledge and this information. Let's make sure we support the sister.
Yeah, we got to do that. Okay, sis, you mentioned cannibalism earlier in Europe. Can you tell us talk about the medicine? All right. I think you got a chapter on medicine. What is it? Medieval Med-Insane?
Yeah, Med-Insane, because they were insane with their medicine. The concoctions. I have to tell people I put actual recipes in my book. So when you go to the chapter titled Medieval Med-Insane, you will see a bunch of recipes that require human body parts because that's what they were all about. They were all about human body parts, and as I said, the freshly executed bodies were the best bodies. The fresh blood was the best blood, and they used this blood they thought it cured epilepsy. I don't know if it does or not. I'm not a doctor. But they used to, during the days of the gladiators and the Roman Colosseum, they used to, call for the death of the gladiator, and there was a certain way that they died, and the blood would come gushing out of the neck, and people would run onto the field, and they would suck up this blood from the writhing, dying gladiator. So,
can I ask a question?
Yeah, you sure can, man. Go ahead, man.
That's because she kind of touched into something that we touched on. We remember I did a presentation on a couple years back on the show about the. She mentioned how the Etruscans became the Romans. I mean, could she kind of go into that? Because again, the Europeans would love to steal the Romans, and this is their whole foundation of their whole, their whole empire. They want to be Westerners and Roman, a Roman Empire, the Third Reich. So she could talk about how the black people started the Romans, became the Romans. So,
Yeah, I didn't actually do research there. That was information I ran into, and different historians have said, these are Etruscans, they're probably this one family, at least. Some said two families had African origin, but they definitely said they thought that the Etruscans had it. And I know that DNA testing came back inconclusive, but I think Ankh said he had some information from that may contradict that.
No, he said they was mixed because the Egyptians defeated them, and they was mixed. You know what I mean? So I know how you do. You make everybody black, though. As long as they look black, they black. They was definitely different from the. They was definitely different from the Indo-European stock of the Romans. So we understand that we get that. So yeah, and they ran their ass out of town immediately though. After that first time, they immediately ran them out of town.
They destroyed their records too, and so that's always that's like a wink, something's going on here because there are no records. Where's the records? Because these are literate people. So why? So what's going on there? So we know that part of their pattern is to destroy cultures and destroy the information regarding cultures. So
Remember, they didn't want no Roman Empire. They didn't want no kings. Go ahead.
Right. There you go. That was the point. I'm saying, like, that was the point. Like, they were the Egyptians, in my opinion, but they were the ones that were fighting against the imperialism. You know what I'm saying? Fighting against the Punics and imperialism. That's what they started the Italian Confederacy. That's what I'm saying. Like, they blowing the Roman history out of proportion. But what it was just about a group of some independent tribes that just didn't want to fall into the imperialism. But I mean, again, like if we were to go to the Egyptians, they went all the way to Scotland. Scotland is called Scotland named after Scata, the daughter of an Egyptian king. So it's like an Ire is an Egyptian is the name of a king. So it's like they know this history. They haven't changed Scotland and the name Scata. They know what that is. So it goes all the way around.
Give us that source while you're at that, bro.
Wikipedia, please. Try there. Please.
Get him. He said go to Wikipedia.
Please. I mean, they're not going to deny that. Nobody's denying that Scata is the daughter of Pharaoh. That's what I'm saying.
I need to say go to Wikipedia. Damn. Okay. All right, so let me say, hold on, let me check this phone. All right, man. Look. We're having a real good show based around this real powerful book. Let me get this call right here. 317, your line is open. I'm Ross, squad up.
Yeah, what's going on, y'all? How everybody doing?
What's pretty good, bro. What's your name?
This is Brother A-Ro, man. I had a quick question. I'm doing all right, man. I had a quick question, man. It's kind of off topic, man, but it's a real quick question, though.
Whoa. No. We stand on topic, bro. We got an esteemed author in the building, man. We don't want to get off topic. She wrote this great book. We want to keep it there. Medieval Upheaval, the catalog of bloody European evils, essays, to empower African Americans. We don't want to jump. Not tonight.
Okay, I got you, bro. I'll just save it for another show then.
Okay, brother. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Okay. So look, let me ask you a question. Is there anything else you like us to know, sis?
Yes. There is, you mentioned earlier that if Europeans did it to themselves, everybody else is definitely fair game. I want to read this passage from this black historian called Eric Williams. I think he passed away in 1981, but he was the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And his book, Capitalism and Slavery, really, it sums up what the Europeans did, how they got rich, why slavery started, why it ended. But he writes this passage on Europeans who were forced into servitude in Barbados. He writes, the transportation of these white servants shows in its true light, I'm trying to get my book to shows in its true light horrors of the Middle Passage, not as something unusual or inhuman, but as a part of the age. I disagree that it wasn't inhuman. The immigrants were packed like herring. According to Middleburger, each servant was allowed about 2 feet in width and 6 feet in length in bed. The boats were small, the voyage long, food in the absence of refrigeration bad, disease inevitable. A petition to Parliament in 1659 describes how 72 servants had been locked up below deck during the whole voyage of 5.5 weeks amongst horses, that their souls, through heat and steam under the tropic, fainted in them. So these people went around, they kidnapped children, they enticed children aboard ships with sweets, and they kidnapped adults and made them work in Barbados, and so that's just an example of how, some of these whites were treated, too, at the same time we were going through our Middle Passage. So, they just, there are Europeans who are capitalists. They have no regard for human life. They're just inhumane. They're I call them sociopaths, I call them psychopaths, and I call them narcissists. And there is, there is a test. I can't remember what it's called now, but I took their culture and took facets of their culture, and there are 20 points you can score on this test to determine whether or not you're a sociopath. Well, Europeans, I checked off 18 of the aspects of sociopathy for the European culture. 18 out of 20 matched them. So they're always talking about somebody's a sociopath. Their culture is sociopathic.
True. Very true. Crazy.
It is. There's noise. Or...
You mentioned the British family. They're Germans, right? They're like a German family. How did the Germans take over England?
Whoa, hold on.
Oh man, that happened with William the Conqueror. And then you have the Northmen going into England, and fighting the natives there. Yeah, so you had a lot of that going on. They were actually invited. I can't remember who was having problems, but one of the kings at the time was having problems, so he invited these two brothers, the founders of, the founders of England, invited them over to help fight some natives, and they ended up having a row amongst each other. Because the brothers were German, and they were like, "Wow, we can run this place. We don't need to take orders from him." And they fought with them and got rid of them.
Wow. Yeah, 317. We're going to the last hour, bro. I'm gonna open your line back up, and you can answer that question you wanted to ask. Okay. So that's the conclusion. I'm saying, what was the conclusion do you draw from your research as a researcher?
Who, me?
Yes. What's the conclusion?
Okay, my conclusion is that we should not think of our era as being modern. We should, and that would help us draw lines between the past and what's happening now. Back then they had slavery during like ancient Rome. They had slavery. They have slavery now. They were bribing judges back then. Well, guess what they're doing now? They're bribing judges. They were bribing senators back then. Well, guess what? They're bribing senators now. Fashion was even a big deal. People went bankrupt trying to stay hip and fashionable. People actually went bankrupt. There was road rage back then. There were knifings and violence. Everything that you can think of happening now, it happened back then. So we have to ask ourselves, these people have been controlled for 2,000 years. When do we get to see progress? Where's the progress? Is this the best that their minds can produce, this society? That's a blueprint of what happened 2,000 years ago? And if we stop buying into their paradigm, we could actually change it. We stop practicing their traditions. We stop spending, we need food, right? But we don't need Nike. We need RGBs, but we don't need Nike.
Yeah, need the RGBs.
We don't need $500 purses. We don't need $1,000 dress. We don't need $50,000. We don't need that stuff. That stuff supports them. If we could shift our paradigm, we could burst their bubble, because they've always depended on African resources. That's what made them rich. We keep them rich. $1.1 trillion we have collectively, and we can't stop the violence against us. We can't have better conditions for us.
Well, you know what I'm saying? That's the problem. We don't support ourselves, and like we say, we deal with the RBG, support yourself or die. This is a very simple understanding of a complex problem that we have. Spending our money with other people, supporting racism, white supremacy through economics is killing the black community, and it is the main reason that you have a hood, because all the money-making mechanisms aren't controlled by you, and all the money that you have, you get paid and it stays in there 5 minutes and it's out. So what kind of feedback is this book receiving so far, sis?
Very positive. People are really impressed with it. I don't know if they didn't think I could do it or what. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they didn't know the information, but they're like, wow, this is really, I've had so many people say, wow, this is really impressive. People have told me it's a good read, that it's a quick read. People have said that once you pick it up, it's hard to put it down. I would like to tell people who buy the book, I would encourage you to read the first 2 chapters, which I call Ma'afa, and the introduction that lays the framework for the rest of the book. It shifts your paradigm, prepares you for all the stuff that about Europeans that you're not used to hearing. So reading the foundation of the book, the first 2 chapters, sets the pace for the rest of the book. After the first 2 chapters, you can read chapter 7 first, chapter 13. There's no particular order, but to gain an understanding, to prepare yourself, because Europeans were doing some stuff and that I explained in the first 2 chapters that, like I said, sets the tone for the rest of the book. I don't think I talked about all the poisonings and stuff that they did, but it's a lot. It's a lot in the book. I mean, I can't cover everything, but
well, that's what I would like
to say. It's a lot. I'm sorry.
You know what? I think myself to be a pretty good researcher, but as I've read through the pages of the book, I found myself not being able to move on because I was finding new things I had never heard of before. That's what makes this book great, that you're going to find things that you had no idea about, okay? And so for me, when I'm reading, I like to stop. I like to look up things. I like to check the references. I like to, you know what I'm saying? I was found myself doing it a lot. Like, really? Wow, let me look this up. Wow, that's oh, wow. So it's like the Nation of Islam did when they wrote The Sick Relationship Between the Black and Jews. They used all Jewish references. And so this book does the same thing. That's what makes the book great. So you can't say, oh, that's that Afrocentric thing. That's that African-centered thing.
Exactly.
That's this, that. You can't say it. You can't say it. You got to go holler at your people. Your people supplied the references, source material for this. All right? That's what makes the book great. So, sis, who should buy the book?
I wrote the essay to empower African Americans. So, first of all, it's for my people to make them aware, to raise their self-esteem, to embrace their ancestors and the traditions of their mothers and grandmothers and fathers and grandfathers. It's written for them. However, Europeans don't know their own history either. So It's for anybody. It's for whomever wants to learn. If you're open to learning, please buy the book and learn. And let's make some changes together. I'm not against white people. Some of my best friends are white. My best friend actually is a Belgian, and he loves the title. It's not one of those I have white friends, blah blah blah. But the book is for us to change this madness we're in. The only way you can change the madness is to acknowledge it, to get past yes, it hurts. The truth hurts. Get past your hurt, and let's do something. Let's do something positive.
Hey, you know what? You sound like one of them white people who say, yeah, I got black friends too.
Right. Right. Well, I got white friends.
I got white friends. Hey, one of my best friends is Belgian white. Yeah, but get this book up. How crazy y'all is. Boy, that's funny, boy. That was a joke. Yeah, you made my day with that. Wow.
Yeah, but you know what? We have, who, me?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, that's funny.
Are you speaking to me, Unc? I'm sorry. Oh,
yes, I'm talking to you. Go ahead. I'm going to get the next call.
Okay, we neglect our own ancestors because of what Europeans have said about them. I mean, God, they have done all the dirt. We get all the blame. But where's the justice in that? We have to tell our story. I use an example in my book. When somebody breaks into your house, the police come and they ask you what your story is. They don't go to the thief and say, "What's your story?" What's their story? I should say. They don't go to the thief and ask, "What's their story?" They go to you. We have yet to tell our story because we don't embrace it. I'm hoping that people will read this book and start relating to their ancestors. It's like your mother. Was your mother wrong? I mean, maybe somebody's mother out there is wrong. But your mother, all the way back to the great. I mean, they had to do something right? They had you, right? How wrong are you? So I want people to look at this, read this book, and feel. And if you have to cry. I cried. Not for the book, but when I came into consciousness and I realized, man, I've been dissing my own people. Oh, my God. Let me feel. Let me go through what I need to go through and feel their pain and embrace them. And so I can do something about this because the only way you're going to do something about anything is to care about it. And they do propaganda. They do a lot of things to make us not care.
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with you. Let me get the next caller. And before I get the next call, I remember you talking about, let me get the callers first. We talked about what the Europeans actually said about Africa when they ran into it. All right, but let me get the next caller. 347, your line is open. I'm all squad up.
Hey, what's up, Al? How you doing, man?
Good, brother. How you doing?
Good. Are we still speaking on the book, or are we allowed to talk about anything else?
We got 5 minutes left, and then we can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Okay, I'll wait then, bro.
Okay.
I'll wait then, bro.
All right, brother. 816, your line is open.
This is Sister Renee from In the Black Radio.
Mm-hmm. It's just Sister Renee. How you doing, Sister Renee? You're not on the In the Black Radio. Sister Renee, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you,
I'm just fine.
Great. Well, I've been listening for about 45 minutes. I wanted to tell the Queen, you are so on point. So much respect to you. I will definitely get the book. It's right up my alley, and you seem to have so much information. And I'm working on the book as well, so that's beautiful to know what you're doing. And also, I just wanted to say as a comment that, I've heard some people say, and I just want to get your take on this too. I've heard some people say or ask, how is it that if black people, our people were these amazing people, they created all of these, amazing things that still haven't been able to be duplicated and so on and so forth. How do we allow ourselves, or how do we get in the condition we're in now? And my response to that has always been that the nature of the black man and the white man is different. The black man's nature is I create. The white man's nature is I destroy, I control. And so when you have a difference of nature in people, you can end up with, the condition that we're in. But I just want to give props to you and get your take on that, and that was it. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for your comments. I really appreciate them. To answer your question, I have a lot of answers that I could give. I agree with you. I think it's about cycles. I think it's about them being takers and us being givers. I think it's about them just flat out lying to us. As I said, we were fair traders, and they came in, they found some weaknesses, which is, propaganda. They're good at finding the weaknesses, and they exploited our weaknesses. I've got historians who talk about contracts, Portuguese promising X, Y, and Z to Africans and not delivering, and just so that they can get access to certain areas. And once they have access, they just ran crazy with it. So, a lot of manipulation. They had, I've got examples of a tribe warring against a prince in Zimbabwe, old Zimbabwe, and, I talk about that saga and how, that mostly benefited the Portuguese, and there were very few Portuguese on the land at the time, but you had Africans fighting Africans and Portuguese benefiting, and then the Africans who fought against the African king, they ended up losing their land, and the Portuguese tried to instill or install feudalism, in that area. So a lot of it is just plain on manipulation, and I told me a long time ago, we weren't prepared for these people. If you had never seen anything like that, how do you defend yourself against that kind of stuff when you're not used to it? That would be my answer, but.
Hey, you got 1 minute to call in. We got 1 more hour left in the show. Get that book, man. All right, Medieval Upheaval, a catalog of bloody European evils. You can go to that website, medievalupheaval.wordpress.com, right? I'm Ross Squad will also be carrying that book. So, you want to listen to the rest of the show, you got call number 347 857-2055. So, sis, man, in closing, what would you like the reader to take away from your book?
I think that
You hear me?
Takeaway. Yeah, the takeaway. Yeah, there are a lot of things. First of all, understand that your ancestors, our African ancestors, were not savages. That's the first thing. They were not the savages. The Europeans came over with guns. They came over with lies. They came over with schemes. And they came over with, prepared to shed blood. They came over with torture techniques and torture tools. So our ancestors were not savages. They were not. Absolutely not. People who believe that the past is dead and buried, it isn't. People carry their traditions, their workable, their favorable traditions are carried forward. So the hangings, the executions of Europe, they've been transplanted to America. Violence in movies, torture, the gun tourism industry are all remnants of medieval upheaval. And I would bet that they've got some other stuff that they want to implement. That's not a conspiracy, it's just looking at patterns, which my book talks about a lot. It talks about how to recognize patterns. It talks about how to look at European storytelling and how to recognize patterns.
I ain't say nothing. I got you.
I know we were talking about conspiracies earlier, so I just want to check you before you check me.
Yeah, I ain't gonna check you on that. I ain't gonna check you. Shit, boy. I already know how you do it.
But when they say we're living in this modern time, this is feudalism. With a different presentation to it. I would like for readers to see how much carrying forward European traditions help us stay stuck in our condition. We have to forego their celebrations, their religion. I had Aunt looking up weddings because even something as simple as a wedding tradition.
Oh, man.
Something as simple as a wedding tradition that we all practice dates back to ancient Rome and their homage to their gods. So whenever we put on a white veil, we're honoring the god Jupiter. We have to think more deeply about the traditions. Our people left us with some tried and true and trusted traditions that we just abandoned, that would probably help us out a lot. I'd like for people to realize that shows like The Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead, and all those other gory shows that a lot of us like to watch, the violent shows, on some level, they're satisfying European bloodlust, on some level. So the producers, the writers, that's not just their wild imagining. They're reaching into their DNA. They're reaching into European folklore, which we didn't talk a lot about, but, they're used to telling bloody tales to their children. That's been going on for a long time. I like for people who are seeking to integrate themselves into the European system, who feel comfortable there, to understand who they have accepted as role models. Okay, so when we, Brother Ish said earlier that we do a lot of our copying of them. Yeah, we do. And so they're our role models, believe it or not. We're learning at their feet. We're imitating them. And so I would like for us to be conscious of that, and to think about whether or not that's a good decision, to want to be like them, to want to imitate them. Is that good for us? Is that good for yourself? Finally, I'd like for readers to know that we're being managed by European and Anglo storytelling. And that the chances are slim. Now, I worked in broadcasting, so I know how it works behind the scenes, okay? The chances are slim that we are ever hearing the truth from the media. You have to go into their media understanding that they're not to be trusted. everything they say must be checked. The people who we see on our television screen, they don't make decisions. They don't make editorial decisions, nor do they write their own material. So everything they say, they're reading it on a teleprompter. So they may look pretty, have pretty smiles, have nice hair, but they're duping you. Okay, which is another reason. I've got 1,000 reasons why I left the business, and that was one of them. I couldn't stand this lying to the public stuff.
Where'd you work at?
I'll tell you off air, but I don't want to tell you.
So you're going to protect them, the liars?
No, it's not about protecting them. It's just privacy.
It's the whole system. Yeah, it's the whole system.
It's the whole thing we're doing.
Yeah, they're massaging their message. They tell stories. They've always told stories, and we have to understand they're master storytellers. It's hard when you're looking at European history. It's very difficult to understand what's true and what's myth, because they mix it all together. And I've read I've quoted historians who say, well, it's hard to tell, but I think it leans this way more, so it's got to be true, So they are master manipulators with messaging, storytelling, master manipulators, and we need to understand that about them. So those are my takeaways, I think.
Well, sis, this is a powerful book, and man, it fulfills the need that John Henry Clark talked about. You encapsulated in the book, and it's just encapsulating the book, Medieval Upheaval, Catalog for Bloody European Evils. Sister C, I appreciate you coming through. So you coming back. We're going to be promoting the sales on the show. Man, it's just like we got a lot of literature out there now, and we got it on point. Okay, it's important. Right. And so while we talk a lot about African history, here's a book that deals with European history and is on point. Thank you for coming through, sis. We appreciate you, your time. You want to drop that website one more time?
My website is medievalupheaval.wordpress.com. If you go there, I have a summary of the book or a synopsis of the book, and I also have a link to one website where you can go and purchase the book. And Brother Ankh and Brother Ish, I thank you for letting me come on and talk about the book and support me. I think it's an important work. I'm glad you think it's important, too. And I look forward to coming back. And if you don't mind, I'll just put my phone on mute and listen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're going to get it in, get some wild questions coming through. I already know what it is.
Yes, thank you again so much, Sister She. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the book. All right, it's needed in the community. Appreciate you, sis. I'm Raw Squad Up. Okay, all right, let's get in for the last hour. I'm Raw Squad Up. All right, man, y'all know what it is, man. It's 317. Your line is open. What's good? 317. Where you at? All right, well, you done. You do that. Okay, let me get everybody out. Who else had a question? Where you at, bro? The line is open. 347. Where you at?
Hello?
Yeah, what's up, bro? You had a question?
Yeah. I had I'm sorry I didn't get to talk to the sister when I called earlier, but my subject matter was completely different, so I didn't want to interrupt the flow. But anyway, thanks for taking my call, brother. The only reason why I really called today was, I was watching a video on Sarnet's channel a couple of weeks ago, and I know you know him personally, so I just wanted to go to him through you. I think that as public figures like you, Brother Ish, Polite, I look up to you guys because I like the message. For the most part, it's positive. But my only issue with Sana personally, I think that as a public figure, you have a responsibility as far as the content that you put out. You know what I mean?
Okay, go ahead.
And I saw where he had Tazariak on his channel. And Tazariak was speaking about, I think, how to share your man or something ridiculous. But for me, I watched a video on YouTube where I think it was his wife, and one of his wives came out and said, it's not so much about Tazariak per se or Hebrew Israelites. It's more of if something happens to any one of you who's in a public figure, at the very least, as the person who's doing the interviewing, the reporter, you should, at the very least, should address that issue before you speak on anything else. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's almost let's say. Hello?
Go ahead. What issue? Hold on. What was the issue?
Basically, I feel it's irresponsible of Sarnetta to give someone a platform when there's an issue hanging out there like there's an elephant in the room, and that person doesn't address the issue. Because this is real life. You're talking about domestic violence. It's almost as if you're condoning domestic violence. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, the Hebrews don't got domestic violence. They say they can beat their women, right?
You see my point, though? I'm looking at him. I'm looking at him. I'm like, yo, how do you give this dude this platform? Because for me, Sarnet is a powerful media outlet. I watch it almost every day. I look to see what's the content, and I like the brother. But sometimes he does some things I just can't understand. I'm like, how do you give this dude?
You just answered your own question. You answered your own question because Sarnetta is not his pastor. He's not in charge of that church. So the question is, how can a church or how can the organization that he represents allow this person to continue to represent the organization without correcting that? So what he's doing is putting a light on the organization. Like, hey, obviously the organization is condoning this. So your point is not with me. Your point is with the organization. If this is how they do it, maybe we need to understand that, hey, they come in, don't send your daughter here because she's going to be a punching bag. So, I mean, and they're not changing it. So it's not him. You know what I mean? It's like, why not the organization? He's not supposed to fire that man. He's just supposed to show you that, hey, guess what? They don't give a fuck.
I disagree with you. Here's why I disagree with that. I think last week, if I remember correctly, I think it was last week, there was a brother who was talking about something that was going on, and he was talking about something like some channel where black women are getting raped or sodomized. And I think Ish checked him on that, like, yo, don't promote that on our station, if I'm not correct. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, he was trying to throw some websites out there.
Yeah, exactly. So if you know there's an issue going on in the community and it's a public issue, it's not something that's private, and you allow this person back on your channel, you are telling me that you're supporting that issue indirectly. You see my point? You can't skirt around this.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, I hear your point, but again, like I say, like some of this stuff is bigger. Like the sister just said about the white man and his media organization. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, like for me, like I say, like you, because again, now we're having a conversation about why is he still we're not having a conversation. Why is he still a priest of some type of religious organization? That is the conversation. And we wouldn't know that he's still a priest unless Carnetta would show, look, these guys is going on every day with their business like nothing never happened. You see what I'm saying? That is what he's, because again, me personally, I wouldn't know nothing about these dudes. So what he's doing is showing the world that, look, man, these guys, you know what I'm saying? They don't care. It's not his job because I don't know what he cares about the religion. I'm saying about, you know what I mean? He doesn't, you know, so that's what I'm saying. It's not his job to stop the organization. His job is to put the light on it. Look, because again, them Hebrews get 10,000 views in a day. You dig what I'm saying? They come from out the woodworks when a Hebrew come on. So it's like they need to find some type of hypocrisy in themselves, and that's what Sai is doing.
I disagree, but I hear your reasoning. You know what I'm saying? I just don't understand it. You know, I look at it from the outside looking in. I'm like, I don't get it. I just don't get it. You understand what I'm saying? I just don't get it. And because, like I said, I think I watch. You know, I even watch because I watch Ankh stuff on his channel, the Real Black Atheist channel. I listen to Ankh. You know, basically, I like intelligent stuff. You know, the reason why I respect Ankh because, you know, he takes a position even when it's not popular to say certain things. You know, I'm surprised to see that he went to the march, but I respect that.
I didn't go to the march. I went to the museum. I was everywhere but the march. I never seen the stage, nor did I see Farrakhan. If you look at the video, you see me dealing with some guns on the video.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right?
Then
so,
yeah,
so I did that first, and then I hung around the Smithsonian Museum, which is right there. Went in there, hung out, and I gave out flyers for my tennis shoe company. Now I'd have been stupid as hell not to go there and give out those 20,000 flyers. Now, that's just dumb. Right. I ain't dumb. Right. Now, and I never told nobody not to go to the march. I simply said what it was.
Yeah, you're 100. I think for me, Unc, I'm so happy that what's his name, Dr. Henry Clark left that whoever put that video up on YouTube years ago.
I put up.
It was.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That video of Dr. Clark speaking on Farrakhan, I mean, it's like he left a mark saying, and you see 20 years later, however many years later, you see it happen again. I'm like, black people, we cannot be this dumb.
Man, you know what? No, I don't even call Farrakhan. Check this out. Here's a good point. You will always hear me say, people will say, why don't you do this and do that? And I would say, well, nigga, you came up with the idea, why don't you do it? Because it's your idea and you best fit to do it. Right? And so the point is, if Farrakhan brings out 1 million people, we don't know what the numbers was, right? And we sitting back saying he didn't have a message for the people, then we just as crazy as that person that called me and say, why don't I do this? The question is, why didn't we have things ready for the people? Should be the big question to ask. Farrakhan did what he was going to do. He got us there. He made money off of us. He did what he could do. He did what he did for his organization. But the bigger picture is, look at all these people. That's what a lot of us really miss. There's going to be a lot of people there, and it's our job because they listen to us now. They wasn't even listening to Farrakhan. Be honest with you, they was walking away.
I heard
speaking. Go ahead.
I heard Sonetta saying that he went there to network and stuff. So I was like, I could see that. That's all.
Yeah, we was set up teaching class outside. You know that, right? So Netherlands was in one area, and then you got Man Polite on one area. You know what I'm saying? I never even made it down to that. I promise you, I never made it down there. I was on the outskirts. I couldn't, first of all, I mean, so many people know us now, and it's just crazy. Like seriously, like if you're not understanding, like YouTube is new television, and you know what I'm saying, like come on, like it's just crazy. And so now I'm glad that we're starting to organize. We organize the problem now because it's there. You gotta let me finish talking, and I'm gonna let you finish. You can't be cutting me off. It's crazy, yo.
I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish. I'm sorry.
No, you killed me. You threw the. It's called the brain kill. Go ahead.
I cut your wisdom. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
Go ahead.
My bad.
Statement.
Yeah, like I said, I watch your stuff, to see, what you're going to talk about, and it's very informative, and I like it. I like it, man. I love when you guys have the build or discussions and debates, and I like it. And the reason why I'm critical of Sarnett is because I think he has the potential to be really great.
Sorry, got 3 channels. He got 3 channels. I mean, he's provided 3 channels. He's providing a lot of content for people in different areas. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to get you with everything. You know what I mean? You might not watch, the green herbal teas and stuff, but, I mean, everything is for everybody.
He has the potential to be great.
Yeah. I think but once you get him, once he gets you inside of that house, like, how you going to pull a Hebrew if he don't get their attention? So he pulling them, he converting them. I said, like, how do you flip a Hebrew unless you get their attention? You know what I'm saying? Like, these brothers, Armorah Squad, you know what I mean? These guys been flipping Hebrews since 2008. You know what I mean? Like, and they do it through their own. They have created their own style. You know what I mean? And you have to garner their attention. So that's like I said. They have a unique style. Yeah, it's different. You know what I mean? But you got to get their attention.
I understand that. I definitely understand that. I mean,
I do.
You
just like banging on Sarnett, yo. Talk to you.
Say that again?
You always do, yo.
You said I just like banging on Sarnett?
Hell yeah, man. I like the guy, but really, he's fucked up. Hey, man, he's a good guy.
No.
Hey, really, he didn't do this. Well, you crazy as hell.
What
I used to bang on Sarnetta hard, man. I used to bang. We used to all bang. But I mean, look, man. Look, if he right, you can't bang on him. Like, you know, you can't bang on a man when he right. Like, we always going through. We was in where was we at? Like, right. You know what I mean? In a primordial suit, we was trying to find it. So you bang on each other like they're doing now. But you can't bang on a man when he right. Like, he's been guys on point. He's doing, you know, he's helping black folks. Like I say, he got 3 different channels, so you kind of got to give him space to let him flow. You know what I mean?
Nowhere else to go, yo. That's what I be telling people, dude. You got pictures of Sarnetta with Khalid. You got pictures of some. It wasn't. Then nobody had the DVDs in Walmart, yo. They wasn't there. The record stores, Amazon. It wasn't on there. It was. Matter of fact, you had to go to Sarnetta and get the tapes. It was the tapes, right? He made it popular, right? To even buy tapes. He did that in New York, right? The DVDs, man. You can go back to some of the old work. You know what kind of collection. You know what the history that man got. When I tell you what, when my man from Professor Griff, when his house got burned down and he lost all his collection, right? Do you know who gave his collection back? Sarnetta, because he had all the material. I'm saying he's an archive. Like we said, to go to New York, literally, to get conscious tapes, it wasn't nowhere to go, dog. Like, no one did that for us. No one is still doing that for us. So whether you like him or not, you know what I mean? I don't like the bullshit niggas he be having on his platform, the Hebrew craziness, the spaced out shit. But at the end of the day, yo, he give everybody a fair chance. What I'm saying is, you got to make the most out the platform. You can't expect him to do that. I realize that. Plain and simple, yo. Okay. It's a TV. It's literally television. People don't even watch TV no more. They be looking at the Real Black Atheist channel, the Unroscar channel, Sarnetta Black News. Man, I'm saying, listen, man, I had no idea. Based off of what I know right now to this day, if you can get a chance to get on a channel with some serious positive information, you know what I'm saying, you need to be hitting them platforms. You feeling me? You just need. That's why we put the radio shows up on the tube. Yeah, you just need to. This shit is crazy. It's a phenomenon I didn't expect. Like, who knew? Who knew? Like, you don't even care about getting on ABC and NBC. We can just get on here and say what I really want to say. You know what I'm saying?
You're doing well, brother.
You say what I really want to say, bro. Like, I can go do a hangout and say what I really, really want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, as long as you ain't talking about killing people, they're going to lock you up for that. You can freedom of speech right up here talking about, did he just say kill white people? Yeah, they got you. You can't say it. You know what I mean? You can't say it. And then white people can't go on Blog Talk and say, yeah, kill them niggas right now, we're going to get them. No, you just can't say it. You just can't say it. So, I mean, you know, but that platform that the brother created, right, it might not be what it might not be what we really, what people think is the perfect way to do it. But then I say to you, get on the platform.
I'm more of a, I would say this, even though I'm intelligent, I'm more of an observer. You know, I like to watch and listen and learn. You know, so I appreciate the information that he puts out. So, I like I said, I've called Sarnetta person and told him, you know, he did a good job. You know, so I don't want you to think someone just hates him, but I'm more critical of him. He has more responsibility. That's all. You know, that's all. I think, you know, like for me, it's more about being balanced. If you're going to bang on the Hebrews, then bang on the NOI too. I don't feel, that's another issue I have. I notice whenever he interviews the Nation of Islam member, is a whole different kind of line of questioning. I don't like that either. I think it should be balanced. It's like I think
he brought up Scientology, man. He brought that up. Like, it's brought it out, but to bring it up to the man in his face.
He let him off easy, bro. Come on, man.
No.
Come on, man. Oh, hold on one second. Let me ask Ankh. Ankh, on the interview that he had with I don't know who it was. the most recent one. When they were interviewing that dude, Nuri Muhammad. Do you think that was an interview for Nuri Muhammad?
Man, they wouldn't let them ask no questions. Let me give you the inside scoop on that. Them niggas filtered the questions, bro. They was on that bullshit as usual, man.
What?
They couldn't ask the questions. They took them in the room like, y'all can't ask no questions. They did that. That's what they did. Fuck it. Get mad at me for telling.
Nobody's going to sit down. Nobody's going to. You're not going to sit Creflo Dollar down and grill him about the Bible. He knows this shit is fake. You see what I'm saying? You're going to have to ask him a couple questions to promote his agenda and ask him the hard questions. You can ask him 1 or 2 hard questions, but you ain't going to be able to sit there for 45 minutes and just grill him out. You know what I'm saying? Because they got an agenda to push.
So you're saying it's not a real interview then? Then you're saying it's not a real interview then? That's what you're saying.
I'm saying I got the answer to the question I wanted to know about Scientology. And it was funny that this nigga is the first nigga that ever ordered it to somebody. He's the first. When you want to know who was the first nigga that bought into this shit? Who was the first nigga that was ordering niggas? Him.
All right, let me put it this way. If I was the person that was asking that question, I'd ask him, are those auditing sessions free? That's what I would.
No, you wouldn't ask them shit.
You wouldn't ask shit.
They wouldn't let you ask questions you wanted to ask. You would have did shit.
You'd have been doing now. You don't know how to play the game.
Yeah. Right, you wouldn't have did shit. You know, you wouldn't have did it. You wouldn't have did it. You wouldn't have did it.
What'd you say? They wouldn't let me ask that question?
Hell no. They be like, nah, you can't ask them that. Man, some bullshit, man. The whole thing is just foolery, man. That's why you developed a word called tomfoolery. It's called tomfoolery. And then you do an interview asking questions you can't even ask the questions you really want to ask, so don't let you ask the questions. Like it's just foolery. At an all-time high. Like, come on, man. Like you're saying, this is Sarnetta now. Why doesn't he ask those pertinent questions? You wondering, like, why they, so now you know. They wouldn't let him do it.
Okay. See, now that you tell me that, now I can understand. Because I didn't know that.
Yeah, but
when
could you ever ask the nation, any of them niggas the real questions? You can ask Unc the real question. You can grill me. Yeah, you can grill me. You might want to cut you out, so I ain't mad at you.
But you want a representative of an organization to go on the record. You know what I'm saying? Like that's now you're dealing in imagery and branding. So people are protecting their brand. You know what I'm saying? So it ain't just like he pulled up on a Muslim on the street.
Okay. See, I didn't know that. See, until Ankh said that, I didn't know that. I just thought he was just throwing soft questions. I didn't realize that they were like, no, you can't ask her. I didn't know that. I just thought it was just a random interview just like he did with Hebrews. But now you let me know. I was like, okay. Now I understand. But thanks for taking my call, though, Ankh. You can get somebody.
Oh, yeah, it's good, man. You see the pile of tricks, yo. We call it pile of tricks.
Thanks so much for taking time to call in, brother. We appreciate you so much.
Hey, one last question, Ankh. Ankh, have you ever been to Africa?
No, When I go, I'm going to South Africa. When I go, I'm going to South Africa.
That where you want to go?
Yeah, I'm going to go to South Africa.
Okay. All right, bro.
I got reasons. I want to go on some archaeological digs in South Africa.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah. You want to ask if I want to move to Africa? I want to ask that too?
No, brother. I don't know if that's in your mentality.
What do you mean?
Meaning that you might, I'm sure you might have things.
I spent 10 years thinking about repatriating back to Africa.
Right? Really? I didn't know that.
Sent 20 children to Africa. Right? I had a choice. So I sent the babies there. Right? I had a movement called the Meet Africa movement. I barely talked about it. What we found was apocryphy at an all-time high. That when you try to go back to Africa, the Africans is crazy as fuck. They don't see it the way you want them to see it. Like, really, you just a white boy and you're not African at all. You feel me? Mm-hmm. Like it begins, and then they don't even know how to play the game. Meaning, like over here, say we want to get something built and you gotta pay somebody to get it done under the table. Over there, everybody want to get hit off under the table. So by the time the money comes to build a product, there's no more money left to even build the shit. You feel me?
That's how it works in the developing world,
horrible,
brother.
Yeah, they like horrible, like for instance, if somebody, if you was to go over there and try to buy some land and you run to the wrong person and they beat you, they gank your ass, like the system of getting that money back is horrible. Like they don't have it together. Like like a lot of places don't have it together like they should. Like you rather build a church instead of building roads. Like the shit becomes just crazy sometimes. Like it's the worst. And you can't blame nobody but yourself at this point. You feel me? And then you find some Africans that love you and understand who you are. But them leaders these days, man, they ain't right, yo. They ain't right, dog. So you just, I mean, shit. Huh. Man.
Yeah, I understand what you mean, brother.
Ain't right.
Do. I mean,
and I'm just saying, it ain't no escaping. That's my point. Anywhere you go, you're going to have to deal with this beast. That's my point.
Right.
So I'd rather deal with him right up in his face, right here. Right here. Like I said, we the poorest rich people in the world.
That's true.
Go ahead and break your ass.
Go
break off somewhere in Mauritania some goddamn where. Go hang out. All right? Go to some place and find out what it really means to be broke. You go to Haiti and go eat the dirt pies. Into fucking wrestling, the whole thing. So we got a long way to go before we decide to move somewhere, a mass movement, because we need to learn how to build infrastructures. Like, that's like key. Like, we need foundational shit. But we got niggas over here saying, don't go to school. Well, how the fuck you going to learn how to build infrastructure if you don't go to school and get the shit? You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of people, don't do opinions. Well, you need to get the information to even build. You know, why not buy a town in America, learn how to run that, see how that work out, and then take the damn show on the road. You can make mistakes over here. You go somewhere over there, you can't make no motherfucking mistakes. And you can't make a mistake. You fuck up, what you gonna eat? Damn, we miscalculate this, I ain't got no run. Yeah, all right. Get it. We need you got towns you can buy in America all day long. Yeah, get that, run that. Keep your infrastructure tight, get your school running right. Couple schools, night square, get that good. Let's see how that go. Okay, now that group, now let's move. Yeah, we have a group that we can stop do nothing. Well, you can't even take advantage of your own hair in America. How about that? You give $1 billion away to Koreans annually, and then get mad because you ain't got a job. Well, hello, you just gave the fucking jobs away. You just walked into the gas station in Arab. You just walked into the Korean store and you gave your job away. You did not support yourself. You just gave it to Nike. You did not support yourself. You just went to the Mexican tech casting spot. You did not support yourself. You took your drug dealing money and you went and spent it with white people. Everybody but yourself. You took the money out of the community again. And I know it seemed harsh, but I'm just saying. Like, you could have built a store. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could have did something with that. But, no, you decided to buy a Rolls Royce or something, a Lamborghini. You know what I mean? The bitter. You this, that, and the other. The $300 jeans, the Gucci. Come on, man. Las Vegas. You know, I understand that life, yo. Like, you killed your people twice. You killed them when you sold them the drugs, and then you killed them when you didn't build nothing to help them get off the fucking drugs. Like, that's something you would always have to do. And see, white people understand that they kill you and shit. They kill you, give you alcoholism, then they give you some drug rehabs. It's crazy. And they give back to themselves. They might kill you, but they're going to give back. Kill them and then give them back.
But like the sister was saying, like, it's still a system of slavery. Like, we gotta understand that the white people are still slaves. They are under a feudal system, and we have to change our mentality. Like, most of the stuff that's going on is to them vulturing and vampiring off each other. But we can understand that we are the producers. We are the only product in this whole. You know what I'm saying? Like, they selling music, they selling our style, they selling our hair, they selling everything because they don't have anything to sell. So we just, you know what I mean? We just understand that we are it. They will sell you, right? Because you're the best product. That's what I'm saying. They will, but I said that before, though. I said, listen, we understand that if they got people to sell, that they're not buying. If they're buying people, they're not buying no white people. You see what I'm saying? That's what slavery told us, is that they're buying people, they're not buying white people. They was kidnapping them, all that shit. But when it came down to spending money, they was going to spend it on a black person because he could do more. So all that. I'm just trying to say that we the product, and that they come from a consumer, like they come like 2/3 of the food in Germany is imported. You know what I'm saying? They can't even feed themselves on that little small little continent, or you know, whatever that thing is, like a continent. You know what I mean?
Here's something for you real quick. If you go down to Pinnacle Point, Africa, at about 160,000 years, man, that little area right there with those where those grubs grew, that little area right there, they had a more diversity of plants, right, than the UK, than the whole UK, that little teeny area down there. 708, the line is open. Where you at?
Peace, bro. I'm about squad up. Team Osiris, his brother Jesse and Gozy. What's happening with the family, yo?
What's good, bro? Where you been at, bro?
I was listening most of the time. I've been on here just listening, man. You know what I'm saying? I heard the sister with the book, and I heard the brother come in, you know, question. So I was just listening.